Hello, this is Tom Capshew, and you're watching my Consciousness Rising YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, and watch it to the end. And I'd love for you to comment and start a dialogue with me about the content that I've been posting. So this is episode 12. We are going to talk about the Noösphere. A little more detail about what it is and what happens when we live most of our life in the Noösphere. If you haven't watched episodes 10 and 11, they do a great job of explaining what the Noösphere is. In short, it's the collection of everything human that's ever been created, thought, believed, all culture, all religion, all buildings, all vehicles, all technology, all tools, everything that's ever been created, the wounds that we've caused for each other over time, all of those are dreams, all of those are in this concept I call the Noösphere. As we talked about in the last episode, if you spend the predominant amount of your time in the Noösphere, then you can lose track of your internal compass and your heart song. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the common trances that the Noösphere can induce. But before we get to that, let me tell you a little bit about the Noösphere and my perception of it. There are wonderful things in the Noösphere, beautiful art, beautiful music, beautiful dance. Love is part of the Noösphere, the love that we have for each other, the love that we have for our children, our spouses, our loved ones. All of that good is in the Noösphere, as well as a lot of what I would consider lower vibrational energy. So bombs and violence and fear and hatred and judgment and prejudice, all of that human created thought and thought forms and emotions are also in the Noösphere. What happens with us as we come to exist almost exclusively in the Noösphere, it creates a fog in our brain, a way that we cannot differentiate between what is right for us and what is wrong for us, what is life-affirming for us and what is deadening or killing us. And so we have to move out of the Noösphere to get clear about how we were created and what we were created for, what our life purpose is, what is our identity, what is our North Star, what is our compass, what feeds us, what gives us the courage to live the best life we can imagine, and take the time to imagine it. So that's for another episode. We'll talk today about some of the trances that humans can get into when they embed themselves in the Noösphere. The first trance I'd like to talk about is the trance of fear. The way our brains are constructed, our first instinct is survival. When we do not believe that we are going to survive, then we go to fear, and it activates our physical body to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And what that then ends up helping us to do is to survive. What we've built in our culture in the Noösphere is a constant drumbeat of fear. We are fed fear every day in social media, over the internet, in all kinds of news media. We are inundated with messages that the world is a dangerous place and we better be careful. And so we can get into a trance of fear, a trance of fearing for our safety, even when there is nothing immediate in our environment that makes us unsafe. Now that we have access to information from around the planet, we can always find a place where humans are not treating each other well, where there's violence, where there's death, where there's maiming, where there's rape. All of those things we have more access to than we did 50 years ago, 25 years ago, 100 years ago. All of those are now fed into our perceptual field, and we get to choose whether we attend to those or not. The trance of fear is real because it affects our physical form and helps us to keep from dreaming about our higher level functioning. There's two ways that the trance of fear shows up. One is the trance of our limiting past. For example, we have experiences in our daily life that are challenging and sometimes impose a limitation on us, and we decide as humans whether to carry those limitations through our life. Let me give you a quick example. When I was in my 20s, I played some sports and had a torn medial meniscus on both knees. Had both knees operated on. It was before arthroscopic surgery, so they cut a nice little zigzag on my knee, on the inside of my knee, and took out that torn cartilage. I was told by my orthopedic surgeon that I should never run again. I love to run. And I promptly ignored that message and kept running, would run races, and at one point trained for a marathon. I was up to 18 miles in one run. And then I moved to New York City and couldn't figure out how to get a 26-mile run without jumping over cars and dodging bicycles and all kinds of things. So anyway, I kept running. I rejected the limitation that my environment, that my orthopedic surgeon suggested or recommended to me. Decades later, after several decades, I've now had knee replacements. I am so glad that I didn't limit myself by my past medial tears in my knees, because I would have missed years of running and enjoying and hiking and enjoying the full use of my knees. So oftentimes our fear constructs limits around us based on what's happened in our past. Another aspect of the trance of fear is the trance of fear of a limiting future. So, for example, if we convince ourselves, and we get to believe what we want to believe, we convince ourselves that we'll never have enough resources to go to school. Then we probably won't go to school. But if we use our heart and look into the future and say, what would give me joy? And say, oh, going to school and graduating would give me joy. Then we can go past our fear and live into our heart song and say, there's got to be some way that I can afford to go to school. And we can make it happen when we put our minds to it and set our intention, and then look for in our environment the resources we need to make things happen. We humans do it all the time. So oftentimes we get seduced or led into the trance of fear. That's one of the common trances in the Noösphere. So another common trance in the Noösphere is what I call the trance of time. If you go back to one of my earlier episodes, I broke down time into chronos, which is human construction, and kairos, which is the now moment. Chronos in the Noösphere, which is time is part of the Noösphere because it's human constructed, the idea of time. When we get into the trance of busyness, which usually comes about when we're in what's called role overload, we've got too many responsibilities that we've taken on, then that trance of time or busyness ends up keeping us running like a hamster on a hamster wheel. And we never take the time to stop and say, is this life affirming? Is this what I want to spend my precious life doing in any given moment? And there may be some things that you'd say yes to and some things that you'd say no to. But the trance of busyness keeps us always active and not thinking about whether that activity is life affirming for our life. There's also a trance of time that I call the trance of boredom. A lot of people would say that if they're not in a highly stimulating perceptual field, that they get bored. To me, boredom is an indicator of a lack of relationship with yourself. If you have a relationship with yourself and you like yourself and love yourself, then you'll always have someone interesting to be around or to be with. And so boredom is a trance of always looking outside of yourself for stimulation instead of looking within yourself for stimulation. And I would assert that there's as rich a landscape of stimulation and interest and exploration inside yourself as there is in the outside world. So boredom is always choosing the outside world and saying, well, if it's not out there, then I don't have anything to do, which is a trance because only you can explore your heart. And that sacred heart inside of you holds the key to your identity, to your purpose, to your passion, to everything that you need to know about how to live your best life. So the third set of trances that I'd like to talk about is the trance of lack. Now, the trance of lack is a trance where we've talked about it in the previous episodes, where you you come to believe that you don't have enough intelligence, you don't have enough resources, you don't have enough education, you don't have enough good looks, you don't have a good enough body, etc., etc., etc. So it's looking at the external world and the internal world from a sense of lack, which we come by naturally as humans because that's part of our brain. Part of our brain, our midbrain in particular, is looking for the blemish, is always looking for what's wrong because it's about survival. So we have to make a conscious effort to shift our brain from looking for lack to looking for resources and looking for information that's always available to us in our internal perceptual field and our external perceptual field. One of the things that I've come to know as a fact from lived experience is my creator, whatever label you want to put on it, God, Allah, Goddess, all that is, Wonkin Tonkin, the great mystery, whatever label you put on all that is always, always, always communicating to me. And it comes down to whether I'm listening. If I'm listening, I can pick up things all the time. If I'm otherwise distracted or in a Noösphere trance, I just blow right by all the messages, all of the opportunities, all of the resources that are available to me by my Creator for my best life. So those are some of the trances that we as humans often get into. I do too, just like you. There's some others that we could talk about at some point. One of them that I'm intimately familiar with is the trance of grief. Grief is loss of something you love, and it turns you inside and just it provides an opportunity for you to do some self-healing, and it often takes longer than you think it does, but we'll pick up the trance of grief in another episode. So again, if you've watched to this point, I thank you for watching to the end, and I wish for you today the opportunity to examine what are your default trances in the Noösphere. What can you get so caught up in that you can spend a lot of chronos time just in default in one of those trances, the trance of fear, the trance of time, the trance of lack, and take a moment to think about what helps you to snap out of it, to get out of that trance and to see life as magical and as beautiful and as awe-inspiring as it actually is. Be well.